Welcome to Good Grief, the podcast where resilience meets reality. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Malone. In this podcast, we delve deep into the stories of individuals who've triumphed over tragedy, adversity, and trauma. In every episode, we bring you raw and honest narratives from guests who faced life's most challenging moments head on. Through candid conversations, they share their journeys of resilience, shedding light on the strategies, mindset shifts, and support systems that empowered them to rise above their darkest hours. Join us as we explore the profound depths of human resilience and discover how, even in the face of life's toughest trials, there can be light, growth, and yes, good grief. Okay, listeners, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. My guest today is Pamela Blake. She is the publisher of the Isaak Collection. It's a 5-novel series written by her late husband, David. After her husband, David, passed away at 67 from a massive stroke, Pamela made the courageous decision to publish his work, not only as a tribute to his life, but as a way to navigate her own grief. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a bit about your husband and what his books are about and why he wrote them.
David Isaak was a global energy consultant. That was his day job. And he had always wanted, though, to write fiction. And we were in a position financially where we could let him do that in the 2000s, early 2000s. So he did. He went up, sat down in front of his computer, and wrote for hours and hours a day and produced 5 novels. And living out the dream, right? The other part of the dream was actually getting them published. He did get an agent. They weren't able to find a publisher. And so he became discouraged and left those books. For me, as it turns out, he passed away in 2021 and had not published his books. And so that's my mission. It became my mission to publish his work, which he always wanted. And I've done that. So there's 5 books out there, 5 novels. They're all different, which is what made it challenging to find a publisher. Publishers like to have, the same thing, same characters, same worldview, same everything. So of the 5 books, one is science fiction, one is coming of age, one is speculative fiction, one is a thriller, and the other is a fantasy, an epic fantasy.
Very creative. That's very cool. So you got them all published. And I always ask a question that I think I know the answer to, but when you've done that, I mean, has that been like kind of helpful for you in your grief process to honor him by getting his books published and letting the world read his works and so on?
Yeah, it's almost like he left them for me to do that,
Yeah.
to have something to do. We'd been together for over 50 years. Our first date was in 1969, which was a while ago, as it turns out. And so I don't know that he would have done that intentionally, maybe, but it gave me a way to honor him,
Yes.
to give him the legacy that he wanted, and also give me something to do with my grief.
Yes. I could totally see how that would be the case. Did you have to do much in a way of editing them, or these books were they were completely ready to go?
You think you're ready to go. He was an intelligent person and edited them numerous times himself. I edited them, and I realized as I was doing that I didn't know all of the rules. When to use italics, when to use quotation marks.
Yes.
Do you indent? Do you not indent? What all just the vernacular of editing. I didn't really know that, and so I hired a professional editor, and I'm glad I did. She found stuff. She fixed things and made it be. Corrected things. She found mistakes. There was one point where neither of us could really tell what he was going for, so we edited that out. Yeah, professional editor, professional cover designer, all the things you do.
Yeah. And when was it you had them published, or were they all published at the same time?
No, that was my original idea. Was I was going to publish them all at once,
Mhm.
but I realized basically I'd be dumping them out there. That I needed to give them more time to grow an audience and to build. So the first one I put out in February of 2023, and then the 5th one I just did in last December 2024.
And there's no more coming. You've just got the 5 that he did. You don't have more in the background that you're working on?
There's no more of his, sadly.
Well, you've got the 5 of them out there, which is a wonderful tribute. I think
Yeah.
that's a fantastic way to honor someone, I really do, especially if that was something he really, really wanted to do, and then you picked that up and went with it after he passed, which is, again, the way we can memorialize our loved ones is always, however that is, whatever that is for us that are left behind, I think is wonderful, but yes. So, do you get feedback from people about the books? Anybody read the book and reach out and say, "Hey, really like that book," or anything?
Oh, yeah, I get lots of good comments. He has, very good writer. He didn't write fiction all the time, but he wrote all the time in his work, so he was articulate and good use of language, all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the vision that he puts into the books, the worldview that he creates is vivid, and, people comment on that mostly, how they hear his voice. People know him, hear his voice in the
Yeah.
books, but
Oh,
also they get caught up in the worlds that he's created.
yes, which is a great book. I mean, yeah, if you can get lost in it, I listen to a lot of books on, recordings when I have long drives, and if I can get one that's really interesting that keeps my interest for a 3-hour long drive, that's always better than one that's kind of a little dull or something. So it's kinda like, trying to find something, but yes, so
Mhm.
that is great. So what are you thinking that you're gonna do next? I mean, this has just kind of been your gift for your husband and helpful for you and so on, or do you have other thoughts on how other things you might wanna do or thinking about doing, to honor him or to help yourself?
Well, multiple things. I have not sold 1,000,000 copies of each book yet, so there's still that goal to
There
do
you
that,
go.
right? 10 years, 1,000,000 copies of each book. Um, Part of the way of doing that is to put the books out there in different formats, so they're all out there in hardback and ebook now.
Mhm.
The first one, Tomorrowville, has also just come out in audiobook format,
Nice, nice.
working with narrator. Um, so I'm going to do that for all of them.
Mhm.
Uh, Large print books, I'm going to learn how to do graphic novels, so they'll turn them into graphic novels. I'm gonna write screenplays down here in Southern California, so Hollywood's just a hop, skip, and a jump, so who
Right,
knows?
right.
See
Oh,
them.
that's wonderful. I mean, think about that. How cool that would be to see one on the big screen. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
right. It was just fun hearing the narrator read the first one.
yes, yes. I hired a narrator to read when I published my autobiography, mainly because I didn't think I would sound as good doing it, and I thought I might break down and get a little emotional, and I was glad with the person we found because she did an amazing job. So, kind of capturing emotion where emotion exists and so on. So it's kind of fun to do that. Plus, I listen to books most of the time, like I said, in the car rather than reading them because I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read. But when I'm a captive audience in the car, I love to listen to books. So I'm glad I was going to ask, are you putting them on audio? Because that's a really big format for a lot of people. I mean, it's like I listen to when I'm at the gym, whatever. I mean, like I said, it's just when I'm a captive
Mhm.
audience, why not listen? So I'm glad you're doing that because I think you're going to find that'll be really quite successful as well. I love your goal of 1,000,000 copies each. I think that's pretty cool. Are you finding that one is more popular than others? I mean, I know you've staggered the publishing of them, so maybe you don't really know how to gauge that yet, but one where people are like, oh, that one's just, gotta have that or anything like that.
The 2 that are really true to genre, um, the first one in particular is science fiction, straight science fiction, dystopian, non-apocalyptic science fiction,
Okay.
and that one has done the best. Um, Sold, I don't know, a couple thousand copies of it so far, and I think, of course, it's well written, right? They're all well written, but it's also just people like sci-fi. It's a big popular genre, and so it's easy for somebody to pick it up. The others are, mixed genres more. One's, coming of age, but it's basically historical fiction,
Mhm.
and even the murder mystery has got elements of creativity in it that don't typically show up in murder mysteries, so.
Yeah. What a wide range. I mean, usually you see like the Harry Potter series. I mean, you have like an author that does like one genre. So I can see what you're saying with, the publisher where you were trying to find one publisher who'll publish all of these books and they're not all of the same genre. So it's incredibly creative that somebody can write along all those lines because I know I couldn't. I like to write sci-fi, but I sure don't think I can write a murder mystery. So it's like, that's a serious talent to be able to cross all of that over. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, he didn't want to do the series thing because he did that already. I wrote that story, right?
Right, right.
He did have plans for writing a sequel to Tomorrowville, which is a sci-fi. So I've been learning a lot about, publishing and a little bit about writing. My joke is I've never done creative writing before except for the occasional government proposal. So
Mhm.
there's elements of fiction in all those. But so my plan is part of the way to continue his legacy is to write myself. To
I
write
love that. And to have a sequel to his book. So you
yeah.
would finish I love that. That is so honoring. I mean, especially I mean, was that something you think he would have wanted to do too, is to write obviously write more books, but I mean, write additional sequel, part 2, whatever, anything like that?
That particular one, he did have a sequel in mind. If you read the book or listen to the book, now that it's on audio format, um, you'll see where there's a I won't give away the story, but you'll see there's room for a sequel to that one.
Ah, nice, nice. Yeah, I like that when at the end of the book where you're like, "Ah, this could keep going," and not in a bullet point. This could keep going, which is kind of fun to that, and if it's a movie, whatever, too. It's always fun to have that, so that works out. So, anything else you'd like to share with us about your husband's projects, his books, anything like that that you'd like to share with our listeners that might be interesting?
Well, I think what's interesting is he always wanted to write, and yet he could not have written these books when he was younger. So there's so much of him that's in them, but his experience in global energy, he was a chemist and a geographer, and as a younger person, he didn't have that experience. He could not have imbued that into his books.
Right, right.
Done these books when he was younger. He could have done something, right? You can always write something, but I hear people say that they always wanted to write, and I said, "Well, yeah, well, you still can, now's the time."
That's
So
an excellent point. I know if you think about it, some of our more famous authors didn't become famous authors until they were a little older in age, and probably for that very reason that you just mentioned, is life experiences, you learn certain things. So I think that's great. And yeah, I know I've met a lot of people who published a book and they over the age of 60 and they were like, I never thought. It's like, why not? Why not? Why not publish it? Or at least write it and even if it's just written and you don't publish it or you don't whatever. It's always, fun. And I think in some cases, I know your husband's work is fiction work, but you can read that and that's a piece of him that you've got with you right there. So it's kind of like when you said you can hear his voice in some of these writings and so on. That's really fun to think about too.
it is, and none of them is autobiographical. The second one, called A Map of the Edge, comes closest. You really can hear him in that one, and the settings that he describes are places we grew up in.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not identified anyone specifically, any of the characters specifically as people we grew up with, but I see them as amalgams, as mixtures of
Yep.
different people we grew up with.
That's fun. Now, when he was writing them, were you did you know what the stories were when he was writing them, or that was just kind of something he was doing and you didn't even read them, or how did you come about learning
We
about them?
talked about them. I didn't read them until they were ready to be read by somebody because I can't once I read something, it's in me, and so I'm not a good editor at that point. I wouldn't be a good outside reviewer because I've read the book already and I know what to expect. But he definitely talked about them, and Tomorrowville in particular, which was the first one he wrote. Um, Toby is the main character. We just called it Toby. Toby possessed him. David would be up all night writing, and it was like Toby had come from the future, from 2088, and was warning us about things
Ah,
that were going to happen. And David was just taking the story down. Tell me more. Tell me more. And so we talked about Toby invading our life because he was wanting David to tell his story.
that's actually really really fun. So yeah.
It was fun. The book Toby predicted that the United States would no longer be allies with Europe, for instance.
Oh boy. So okay, here we go. Here we go. We have some prophecy now. Yeah. No,
A
that's
few prophetic things in there that David was just was extending what he saw as what was going on in the world back when he wrote it.
yeah, that's a different story for a different day. But yes,
That's
I hear you there. But yes,
It'll be over a glass of wine.
Anyhow, well, Pamela, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to reading these books myself, or actually listening to them. As I mentioned, I like the listening better because I can drive and listen. That's my ultimate multitasking. It's driving and listening at the same time, to something interesting. So I appreciate that. We will have links to your books on our podcast notes so that listeners can find them and pick them up. I wish you all the best in hitting that million goal. I think that's really cool. I love that.
Whatever the units are, a million will be involved, whether it's dollars or copies. I'll go
Well,
with
okay, yeah. Either way. Well, if it's copies, it's probably it's probably more than $1 million. If it's copies, because usually they're more than $1 per book. So there's that. Yes.
Mm.
Thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Good Grief. We hope that the stories shared today have inspired and empowered you on your own journey of resilience. If you want to dive deeper into the themes of trauma, tragedy, and survival, be sure to check out my memoir, The Day I Became the Spider Killer, a memoir of trauma, tragedy, and survival. In this book, I shared my own raw and honest experiences, offering insights and strategies for overcoming life's toughest challenges. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or listen to it on Audible. Your support helps us continue to bring these powerful stories to light and spread a message of hope and resilience. Stay tuned for more incredible stories on our next episode. Until then, remember, even in the face of life's toughest trials, there can be light, growth, and good grief.